What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with your Week 15 NFL Power Rankings, ranking every NFL team from last place, number 32, to first, number 1. This is how I feel about every NFL team at this moment in time, entering Week 15 of the 2021 NFL season. Let me know how you feel about your team in the comment section below. And don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Voice your opinions in the comments. Let me know what your top 5 is, what your top 10 is, where you agree, where you disagree. Let me know if my rankings are amazing or if they absolutely suck. Let me know in the comment section below. Before I get started, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly NFL power rankings just like this and a lot more here on the channel. Also, spike that notification bell to get the latest upload. Let's kick off the power rankings, of course, with the worst team in the NFL, and it is no surprise that it is the Jacksonville Jags. And the reason it's the Jacksonville Jags is because they have an incompetent coach called Urban Meyer. They also, in my personal opinion, have the worst offense in the NFL. And quite frankly, the NFL in 2021 is a offensive-driven league. And when you have the worst offense, it's tough to win. Even when Jacksonville's defense plays hard and plays a team tight, just like they did Tennessee, the offense comes out and lays a fat egg. A 0. They didn't score a single point. They stink. They've got to scrap the coach. They've got to get a new one. And hopefully, that next coach can get the best out of Trevor Lawrence. They are the worst team right now in the NFL. At number 31, I have the Houston Texans, which makes me say I have no idea why Jacksonville is a field goal favorite over the Texans. I understand that the Jacksonville Jags are at home. But do we remember when these teams played earlier in the year, the first week of the year? It was an absolute beating by the Texans. They ran them over. They dominated them. And I will say this about Davis Mills. What's the difference between Davis Mills' support staff, supporting cast, and Trevor Lawrence's? You know, this is a guy in Davis Mills who was drafted as a mid-round pick. And this is another guy who was supposed to be a generational talent. You swap teams, and I don't really see much of a difference between either or in terms of their performance. Davis Mills has been a little bit impressive. I mean, he's had 2 or 3 games with over 300 yards. He's not super athletic, but he's a decent pocket passer with a decent arm, decent accuracy. I haven't exactly not been impressed by what I've seen by Davis Mills. You know, I think this kid can be a quarterback in this league. I'm not sure if he's going to be a starting quarterback, but I feel like he could be around this league for a long time, just from what I've seen from his rookie season. I don't think he's as bad as people think he is. They're better coached than Jacksonville. I think they've got more reliable leadership than Jacksonville. We will see who truly is the worst team in the NFL this Week 15. Now, my number 30 is the Detroit Lions. They went right back down to earth after their first win over the Vikings. They get demolished by the Broncos, which was a really tough place to be in if you're the Lions, because the Broncos were celebrating the life of Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace. So they played hard for Demaryius Thomas and honored his legacy in a great fashion, and we'll get more to that with the Broncos, but that was a tough place to be in for any team playing the Broncos there. And the Lions clearly were outmatched, outgunned, and outperformed in this game. I will say the Lions consistently come to every matchup, every game, with an effort. And that's what I like about them, and that's what I like about Dan Campbell and what he's done for this team. I think my bigger, larger question about Dan Campbell is if he's truly the answer for this team long term. I think he's a great short-term culture guy, but I'm not sure if he is a real NFL head coach in terms of the X's and O's, in terms of the ability to get this team to where they ultimately want to go. Short term, he's excellent. Long term, we'll have to find out. But this team's still lacking a lot of talent. I just like the way they fight, and I like their energy each and every week, even though they stink. At number 29, the New York Jets, talking about stinking it up. The Jets are awful. In my opinion, worst defense in the NFL. Zach Wilson has looked a little bit better since coming back from injury. In that game versus the Saints, good defense he was playing, good coaching staff he was playing with limited talent around him. No Corey Davis, no Elijah Moore. It's tough for any quarterback, a bad offensive line. Zach Wilson has shown some real promising moments, some real promising highlight throws, but he also shows some just terrible football. So this is a team with lacking a lot of talent. They need a lot of talent this offseason, and I'm not quite sure they have the coaches in place to take this team ultimately to a winning record and to be the coaching staff to develop Zach Wilson. I just don't think they are. So at number 29, I have the Jets. At number 28, the other New York team, the Giants. The Giants had been playing awful as of late. Now, part of that is not having their quarterback, and the second half of that is Mike Glennon is the guy replacing your quarterback. I do not understand why Mike Glennon still is able to start games in the NFL. I would never sign Mike Glennon. When's the last time Mike Glennon actually won a NFL game as a starter? When's the last time? The offensive line is dreadful. I thought Saquon looked better this past week. He was involved as a runner and a receiver. Looked good. They've got a lot of talent in areas, secondary, wide receiver, skill positions in general, but they need to build on that this offseason. Daniel Jones is a quarterback that I truly believe you can win with. I'm not saying he's spectacular, but if the other pieces are in place, I think he's good enough to win some games in this league. Is he the long-term solution? Probably not, but this team has a lot of other issues that they need to fix as well. I think Joe Judge is a fine coach. I'm not sure if he'll ever be a great coach. Maybe they got to look for a solution offensively. But this is a team that I think has promise entering next year, but they need to hit it out of the park with their offseason. This season is a wrap. It's over. Get through it healthy and move on to next year. But this team has a lot of questions to answer this offseason. At number 27, the Chicago Bears. I think the Bears have been playing with more consistent effort and just overall performance than the Giants. I moved them above the Giants because of their performance versus the Packers. I thought they showed some energy offensively and through their special teams. I think Justin Fields has moments where I continue to see the bright spots of what people loved about him. You know, I wasn't the highest on Justin Fields. I said there's certainly athleticism that can be packaged into something special if he can get through the kind of reading of defenses and the inaccuracies, and those things still exist, there's no doubt about it. But the amount of splash plays that he's able to create with his legs as well as his big arm is certainly promising. This offense definitely needs a renovation. I feel like they need a couple new skill players to deal with. The offensive line could certainly be better. Defensively, they're missing a lot of key pieces. Robert Quinn is balling. I mean, he's playing unbelievable right now. But the special teams was really cool to see, and it was just nice to see them actually compete in a game versus the Packers, even though they lost. So, promising end of the season here if Fields can build on his performances from earlier in the season, moving into year 2. At number 26, I have the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have gotten worse and worse and worse really all season long. Their defense has disappointed me as of late. I think they've been able to get ran on more than I would have liked. I think from a pass defense perspective, their pass rush has not been the same as it was earlier in the year. Offensively, Cam isn't great. PJ Walker is certainly not the answer, but the biggest problem for this offense is the offensive line. I mean, it is dreadful. They can't run block very well, and they certainly can't protect the quarterback. Any quarterback here would not be having an easy time. Cam is nice to have as a short-term bridge option as a leader, but they certainly need to look for a future solution at this position. This is a team like the Giants that I see a lot of talent, but they need to fix some really bad spots about this team, and it starts with the offensive line. At number 25, I have the Atlanta Falcons. I said this in my NFL review for Week 14. This is the best worst team in the NFL. And what I mean by that is they have no talent. Like, I would dare you to name 4 or 5 defensive players on the Atlanta Falcons. They are a extremely lacking of talent football team, but that also kind of makes them endearing a little bit. That makes them fun to cheer for a little bit. Matt Ryan is still a capable quarterback who can win games. He's certainly not a guy that's going to carry any teams out there, but he's a guy that I feel like if he was in another situation, he would be a playoff guy. He would be a guy that you could win a Super Bowl with if you had the right roster. If you put Matt Ryan on Indianapolis, if you put Matt Ryan on New England, if you put Matt Ryan on Cleveland, I think you see more wins from Matt Ryan. I think it's as simple as that. But they just don't have a lot of talent supporting him or really the solutions on either side of the ball. The offensive line is very inconsistent. I think the run game has improved with Arthur Smith, but the receiving weapons are definitely something to be desired. I mean, Kyle Pitts is talented, but he hasn't really shown up when teams are doubling him basically every game. And Gage has been nice, but he's more of a number 3, right? A good number 3, maybe a capable number 2. So they're missing Calvin Ridley right now. I might buy into this team if they had Calvin Ridley to make that 7 seed. And some way, somehow, with a minus 108 point differential, this team can make the playoffs, which is insane. And I think it speaks to the coaching job of Arthur Smith and of Dean Pease. This is the first year they've had this team, and they're already competing for some sort of lower-end playoff spot, despite being one of the worst rosters in the NFL. I think that's pretty impressive. Shout out to A.J. Terrell, too, who also continues to play really well. At number 24, the New Orleans Saints. This is just a really well-coached team. They won't really beat themselves, but they just don't have a lot of talent in crucial positions. Offensively, they are missing receivers. They are missing a quarterback that can get this thing done. If they had a good quarterback, you just put Matt Ryan on New Orleans. This is probably a playoff team right now. The defense is pretty good. I don't think it's as good as maybe some people hype them up to be. They're very good versus the run, but they have been susceptible versus the pass pretty much all season. And then offensively, I should say, the offensive line has been missing pieces. That's why they're not as consistent. But Taysom Hill gives them a feature on the ground that I think is better than Trevor Siemian, but he's certainly not a great passer. They need that power running game to be successful because of the lack of explosiveness in the passing game. Alvin Kamara is back, which is nice to see, but this isn't a team that's going to make the playoffs. I feel like this is a team that if they get the right solution at quarterback, if they can add a receiver or two, they could be a playoff team next year. There's no doubt about it, and maybe even a contender pretty quickly. At number 23, the Las Vegas Raiders. They have fallen significantly, and I'm not sure that they even belong this high on the list. Derek Carr, I like, but I feel bad for at this point. The offensive line is arguably the worst run-blocking offensive line in the NFL. The pass blocking isn't much better. Darren Waller being out has significantly hurt the explosiveness of the passing game. I gotta give a lot of credit, almost a hand, to Hunter Renfrow, who's been freaking phenomenal, man. Unbelievable in the last few weeks. Defensively, they're too vanilla. They play the same defense over and over and over and over. And I think Gus Bradley's got to go. I want to see the Raider way to be reestablished this offseason. I need a new GM. I need a new head coach. And I need a new promising future for the Raiders. I think they have a quarterback that if they can build around him quickly, they could be in the playoffs. But I don't think they have a heck of a lot to really be happy about with some of the younger talents that they've drafted or they've signed. There's not a lot of positivity around this football team right now. At number 22, the Washington football team. A team that doesn't really have a ton of talent right now, but plays hard. I think they play well for Ron Rivera and what they want them to be. I think overall Turner is one of the more underrated OCs in football. Their ground game is pretty promising. Antonio Gibson's a good player. I think they can run on you, but their passing game just isn't consistent enough with either quarterback, whoever it is. It's really tough to understand if Kyle Allen is going to be the guy this week or next week, and if that's the case, you probably count yourself out from any sort of playoff shot. The defense obviously has dealt with some injuries up front, which has hurt them significantly. I think they showed a lot of fight coming back versus Dallas, but they're just simply not that good. They're going to fight every week. They just don't have enough of the Jimmies and the Joes. At number 21, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are, I think, getting back to what we thought the Seahawks would be. Russell Wilson looked a lot better versus Houston. I thought he looked like Russell Wilson for the first time in a while. Tyler Lockett was making plays in the game. Rashad Penny looked finally like a first-round pick running back. Had a really good game, maybe the best game of his career. This is a team that I wouldn't want to play down the stretch because they have nothing to lose and they can beat anybody because of Russell Wilson. The defense, though, I will say is pretty bad. Like, they give up a lot of plays, a lot of time of possession, eats up the clock. I think the fundamental issue with the Seahawks right now is they just don't have the ball enough. Their offense is too vertically based, too big play based, and it doesn't allow to possess the ball and win the time of possession. On the other hand, you have a defense that gives up time of possession. So the Seahawks are just a team that in that facet is not what they've been in the past, which is the biggest reason, in my opinion, they're not what they were in the past. At number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, I think, are a bad team. Like, I honestly think they're a bad team, but I will say about them. They have a few playmakers on their team that make up for all of the madness, all of the bad run blocking. Najee Harris somewhat negates that. All of the bad pass blocking, having Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool somewhat negates that. Ben Roethlisberger being a veteran negates a bad offensive line a little bit. The play calling is really bad. There's no doubt about it. The short yardage is really bad still. The defense is not what we thought it would be. TJ Watt and Cam Hayward make up for a lot of bad, same as Minkah Fitzpatrick. They have a few studs on their defense that make up for a lot of bad. And that's just what I see from the Steelers. A few spectacular players that any team would love to have, but just areas of their football team that are unorganized, unbalanced, not good enough. And I think Mike Tomlin has lost a little bit of what the Steelers should be and what I think makes them the Steelers in certain moments. And Chase Claypool, I think, is indicative of that. I think he's an example of what's wrong with Pittsburgh. And that is why they're number 20. At number 19, the Denver Broncos. I've been impressed with the Broncos in two areas. Their ability to run the ball consistently on just about any team and their ability to play pass defense. Those two areas are pretty darn good, in my opinion, from Vic Fangio's team. But they just don't really have enough in the passing game on offense, and they do have a little bit of a susceptible trait to not defend the run as well as you would like. But they play hard, they play tough, they're good in bad environment and weather, and I feel like they're a tough out for any team down the stretch here. As long as Teddy doesn't really turn the ball over, they can kind of hang with mostly any team in the NFL. At number 18, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are, what can I even say about this team? Significantly disappointing. I thought I wasn't impressed by their performance versus the Baltimore Ravens. I thought they should have wiped the floor with the Ravens, and they weren't able to. They weren't able to close that out in significant fashion, in impressive fashion. They kind of allowed the Ravens to come back. But I will say this about the Browns. Myles Garrett wins them games. Their pass rush is impressive. Their defense is one of the better ones in the NFL, despite some inconsistencies earlier in the year. Denzel Ward is a baller. I think they have underrated linebacking play. The offense, though, is just one of the worst in the NFL right now. Kevin Stefanski hasn't found a formula for this team. The run game has been unimpressive as of late. The passing game is, not scary in any way, shape, or form. So the Browns, I don't think are a playoff team, but for whatever reason, they have a chance to actually make it, which is crazy. At number 17, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, I feel, are well coached. Brian Flores has this defense playing the way he wants it. Aggressive, man-to-man. I think Jalen Phillips has broken out in the later half of this season and played really, really well. I think their rookie class just has been a great addition. I mean, they have been maybe the biggest reason this team is back on track. Phillips' ability to create pressure and disruption. The kid Holland in the back end making plays and playing special teams. And Jalen Waddle being an absolute number one wide receiver for Tua have been three of the biggest factors this team is on the track and on a winning streak. Tua, I think, deserves credit for how he's playing, how he's managing the game and making enough throws to win, as well as protecting the football. They still have their faults, their offensive line, their running game, but they're a capable, average football team that I don't think many teams want to play right now, because they're going to give you problems on the defensive side of the ball. And they're not going to beat themselves on offense. They're a little bit better than I think most people think. At number 16, the Philadelphia Eagles. What I can say about the Eagles is they're mostly healthy. The Eagles have a good offensive line, top 3-ish. And with that, they can run the ball. They can protect the quarterback, even with limited wide receiver play. They can make some big plays down the field. With Jalen Hurts, they have a 2-quarterback system there where if Hurts, for whatever reason, isn't feeling good, isn't playing good, they could put in Gardner Minshew, who could step in and win games. I like Dallas Goedert. I like Devontae Smith. I like Miles Sanders. I like elements to the offense. I like how they're different offensively, schematically, to give some defenses issues because they're different from everyone else, and that makes them hard to prepare for. Defensively, their front is playing good. They're pretty good versus the run. They've been low-key pretty darn good versus the pass, especially when it comes to taking away big plays. Darius Slay has been a Pro Bowl cornerback, and I think this team could make a run late in the year to enter the playoffs as the 7 seed. And they're a team that I wouldn't necessarily fear in the playoff format, but I would also say they're not going to be an easy W, that's for sure. So at number 16, the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 15, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings got back on track with the win over the Steelers, and it scared you at the end there in typical Vikings fashion. They weren't able to thoroughly dominate the game from start to finish, but with Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook, you're going to score points on most opponents, even with a lackluster offensive line and secondary weapons. Those three can get it done. Jefferson, to me, is the best receiver in football, and Dalvin Cook's a top 5 runner. And on defense, they're not very good, I'm going to be honest with you, but they're pretty well coached with Zimmer there, and they can create some pressure to cause some mistakes. So the Vikings are a team that I do feel some injuries have hindered maybe what I thought would be a pretty darn good football team this year, as well as the fact that they just don't have this clutch factor to win games late. Some of it's quarterback, some of it's kicker, some of it's offensive play calling, and they seem to be too conservative in moments, which get them in trouble. But the Vikings are a quality team that I think could sneak into the playoffs in the NFC. At number 14, the Baltimore Ravens, who are kind of the opposite of the Vikings. I think the Vikings maybe have more upper echelon talent, but the Ravens have a very good quarterback, a very good kicker, and a very good coach, and a very good coaching staff. I think Don Martindale is probably the guy that nobody talks about as a head coaching candidate that should be on that list. For what he's done with this defense with limited talent, especially now in the secondary, to be best on third down, to be best in the red zone is super impressive and speaks to the coaching. Offensively, they're just not very good right now. They can't really pass protect. They can't pick up blitzes. Lamar or whoever it is at quarterback is making mistakes. Wide receiving core is kind of hit and miss. So I feel like the Ravens are kind of a pretender, but a lot of that is due to all of the unlucky things when it comes to injuries, but they've also been fortunate from the way they've won some games this year, so it's kind of balancing each other out. At number 13, I've got the best team in the AFC North in my opinion, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals, who lost another tough game to the San Francisco 49ers last week. The Bengals, Joe Burrow is a baller. I officially am a big time believer in this guy long term. I think he can be a good quarterback for a number of years. They have a lot of different weapons to attack you in the passing game. Joe Mixon's a good running back. They need to get healthier on the offensive line to reestablish that running game. But defensively, they've kind of regressed a little bit. They were at a certain point in the season where they were playing really well. Injuries have hurt them somewhat. A couple of their best players have been hurt, but they're okay. They're still not a liability by any means. I just feel like they're a little bit immature, and I don't think their coaching really gives them enough of an edge to win versus the better teams in the NFL. Whenever they've played the better coaching staffs or the better teams in general, they have struggled to come out as winners. So at number 13, the Bengals. At number 12, the Tennessee Titans. I've been thoroughly unimpressed by the Tennessee Titans, especially their offense as of late. I thought versus Jacksonville, they were just not very good and thrived off of their defensive performance, which I still think their defense is quality. I think you could put them in the top 10. They've got a good pass rush, one of the better run defenses in football. Their only real liability there is their cornerback position, but it's not like it is such a liability that they'll lose them games and lose them the year. I think the offense is the reason that they possibly could see an early exit in the playoffs. I understand getting Derrick Henry back and A.J. Brown back would be big additions, and I think that certainly would help. But I'm concerned about the overall creativity of the offense, the overall passing game, specifically the drop-back passing game of this offense, and they give up too much pressure. So the Titans are probably a playoff team. They'll probably even win their division. I just don't know if the consistency offensively will be good enough for them to go very far in the playoffs. So at number 12 is the Titans. At number 11 is the San Francisco 49ers. Very well coached offense with a quarterback that executes well. George Kittle's the best tight end in the league. I don't want to hear it. Deebo Samuel is one of the best weapons in football. Brandon Ayuk is playing much better. I mean, this is the guy that we thought he was, right? Overtime winner versus the Bengals. Eli Mitchell's an explosive runner when he's in the lineup. The offensive line's very good run blocking wise, pretty good pass blocking wise. Defensively, a bit overrated, specifically in pass defense, but they can stop the run and they can rush the passer, which makes them dangerous versus some of the better NFC teams. I think a team like the Packers, a team like the Cardinals, a team like the Rams in the playoffs do not want to see the 49ers. You know, there are teams that maybe they match up worse with, like Tampa Bay, but there are also teams that they match up better with. Like, I think if they played Green Bay, that game would be a one-possession game, even in the playoffs in Lambeau. So they are a team that you can buy into as a dark horse at number 11. Entering the top 10, the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert's a stud. That pass he made down the field to Jalen Guyton, I believe it was unbelievable. He's a stud. He'll keep them in games. He'll win them games single-handedly. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, a good duo. I'm just not sure if they have enough secondary weapons or enough explosiveness to really make teams pay, but I have seen an improvement in terms of their ability to throw the ball down the field. Austin Eckler dealing with some injuries, the offensive line dealing with some injuries, but I feel like this is an offense that can move the ball on most of the defenses in the AFC and make some plays and beat some good teams. Like, they're going to give the Chiefs a hard time on Thursday. Defensively, they are well coached in the secondary. I think they play the pass very well. I'm still a little bit concerned about the run defense and the light, just overall players in the box. But I think that they're getting better as a defense. They're playing together more, and they're playing the run a little bit better. I just want to continue to see that consistency from them. But they went from a team where I was really liking at the beginning of the year to a team that I thought was a little bit of a fraud in the middle of the year. And now they're kind of shaping into a team that I think is what they should be. A team that's maybe a little bit of a dark horse, can just about compete or beat anybody due to their quarterback. And I feel like maybe just doesn't have quite enough to get to the Super Bowl, but could really make an upset in the playoffs that would totally change your bracket. That's kind of how I see the Chargers at number 10. At number 9 is the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is a very well-balanced team. I'm just not sure that they're a great team. They typically lose to the best teams that they play, but they really compete with them hard, and it comes down to one score more often than not. I think what's limiting them is Carson Wentz and the receiving core and the consistent ability to drop back and pass in big situations and avoid mistakes. Their running game is one of the best in the NFL. It's superb. Their offensive line's very good and gives them an edge. This is a team that can be at home or travel on the road due to their good offensive line, defensive line combination, and the toughness that they play with. They're mentally tough, physically tough, and well coached on both sides of the ball. They make you beat them. They don't beat themselves. So, at number 9, I've got the Colts, who have a tough test this week versus New England. At number 8, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills, I still believe, are a top 10 team. I understand the quality of opponent hasn't been super impressive. But what was impressive this week was their ability to find the heart and the soul to come back on the BUCS and make it a game. Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks, like I talked about with Herbert, who they could beat anybody because of his ability, because of his single talent to go out there and just ball and just take over a game with his arm, with his legs. Now, it is a bit concerning that he was in a walking boot after the game, but they're a passing game and explosive offense that can come back on anybody, that can beat anybody. Their defense is still good. I don't think it's the best in the league. I don't think it's, top 3, but I think it's a really well-coached unit that can play a little bit of man, a little bit of zone. They can get a bit of pressure. They can defend the run well enough unless they're one of those few matchups where, like the power football teams, the Colts, the Patriots, those are the teams they have problems with. But there are other teams in the AFC that if they matched up with, like the Chiefs, I feel like that would be a really interesting game, and it would almost come down to who's making more throws, Mahomes or Allen. So the Bills are still a definite threat in the AFC. I just think they have more flaws than we might have thought before the year. At number 8. At number 7, the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are tough to figure out. I think their defense is starting to get much better thanks to their health up front. They're a very athletic front, and they're able to rush the passer. They're also a very fast defense. If the pressure doesn't get there, though, they are not very good in the secondary. They're more so a zone defense where if you get them into man coverage, you can definitely pick them apart. Their offense has been good, but it hasn't been what we thought it would be when we saw the first few weeks of the season. Dak Prescott was balling. He's not the same guy right now. Tyron Smith being hurt certainly concerns me. Zeke being banged up. Tony Pollard being banged up. This is a banged up offense. This is an offense not playing at its peak. I think if this team has any hope of getting out of the NFC and getting to the Super Bowl, they need their offense at full strength. They need this offense to be hitting on all cylinders because I think the defense is decent, but they're more big play oriented than they are shut down. So at number 7, I have the Cowboys. They definitely have a lot of potential. I'm just not sure if they can make it all happen in 2021. At number 6, the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams are similar to the Cowboys. They've got a very good passing game with a trio of receivers, a competent running game, a defense that's very athletic but maybe a little bit smaller, and they don't necessarily have the depth at the secondary position. If the Rams had the defense they had last year, this would probably be the best team in the NFL. I think the Rams defense right now is a bit overrated. They're all very much like the Cowboys where they create big plays. They get sacks, they get pressure. They can do that sort of stuff, but they're not really consistent. You can move the ball on them on the ground or through the air, and they're a little bit small for my liking up front. Offensively, they need to continue to commit to Sony Michel and the run game to open up those big plays down the field. Cooper Kupp's nearly unstoppable, and Odell's looked really good since joining the Rams. I think the Rams are closer to a Super Bowl team than they are not, but they're just not as impressive as the teams above them. At number 5, the Arizona Cardinals, who the Rams defeated. Now, the Cardinals, I think, are, if I had to say, like, who's a bigger Super Bowl threat, the Rams or the Cardinals, I'd probably say the Rams. But the Cardinals, I think, as a whole, with consistency, has played better. And that's why I have them higher. Kyler is very good, but there's just something missing from him, I think, in terms of an experience thing. The offense is a lot of scramble drill. It's a lot on Kyler Murray to create big plays. They've got impressive weapons, but they're not necessarily able to be a consistent dink and dunk short passing game type of offense. They're not consistent enough in the running game, in my opinion. There are certainly flaws that I think people were kind of overlooking. And then defensively, they're solid. Like, they've got a pretty good pass rush. They've got very athletic linebackers, a couple of good safeties, but their corner position can certainly be had. And if they don't get to the quarterback, they can be passed on. So the Cardinals are good, and they're definitely talented. I just feel like they're more big play. They're more flashy, and that's why people like them. I don't think they're necessarily everything it takes to be a Super Bowl team this year. Might come down the road the next year or two. I just don't truly buy into them as a Super Bowl team right now. At number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, to me, although they're not as explosive as they used to be, they're not as explosive as the Cardinals on either side of the ball, I would say. They're much more consistent, and they're much more physical, and they have areas of their team that I think speak to me as Super Bowl type team more so than a Cardinals team. I think the Cardinals have much more flashiness to them than the Chiefs do this year. Even though the Chiefs are called the Chiefs, they have Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey and all that. I think the Chiefs defense is just more balanced in the way that they can defend the run and get to the quarterback. I think their secondary can play zone or man, and they're stickier. I feel like Spagnuolo's a really good coach who can game plan game to game. I think Andy Reid has that experience over Cliff Kingsbury. I feel like even though they're not the offense they used to be, they can give a little bit of like a short passing game, and they bring a lot of different elements with all the motion, and the Tyreek Hill factor is a big one where they can create a touchdown in one play. And they certainly have that championship background, which I think is also an X factor, which makes them a contender. I'm just not sure if they're quite good enough on offense right now for me to believe that they're the best team in their conference. At number 3, the New England Patriots, who I currently do believe are the best team in the AFC. It's because they have the best defense in the NFL, the best coach in the NFL, a very good offensive coordinator who's very versatile. They have a very good offensive line. They can play physical football, but I think the underrated element to them is they can also have finesse, and I think that's going to be tested on Saturday versus the Colts. The Colts are a physical football team, but the thing that the Patriots might possess over them is the ability to be finesse, to be a little bit of a short passing game, to have Mac Jones drop back 35 times and make throws. And I think they can do that, and they might be able to prove that down the stretch here. We'll find out. But I think that is going to be something that they need if they're going to get to the playoffs. I love the physicality. I love the way they play. I love it. It's old school, it's great, and it works versus most of the modern day teams. But there are other teams in this NFL and in this AFC that are going to give you problems by just playing one way. The Colts are a team that could give you problems that way. The Titans are a team that could give you problems that way. The Chiefs even have an edge to them. But if New England can open up and add a little bit of finesse to that power, I think they can be a true Super Bowl champion type of team, and I think they have it. We just need to see it. At number 2 is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, they have, right now, Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback better than anybody in football. The offensive line is not great right now. I think certainly with some of the injuries they're dealing with, we saw some of their flaws versus the Bears. And Matt LaFleur concerns me when he just puts guys on edges and doesn't decide to double any of the good pass rushers or chip any of the good pass rushers. That was a problem they had last year in the NFC Championship and somewhat in the playoffs, and they didn't really ever fix that. I think there's too many times where the Packers kind of invite good pass rushes to ruin games, and that's been a little bit of a problem with their passing game over the last couple of years, that if they play like a Tampa or an Arizona or an LA in the playoffs, I think if they're having to pass the ball, that could be where they maybe slip up. I certainly could see that. You know, their running game is good with A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones has been a little bit of a non-factor. Devontae Adams is excellent, but I want to continue to see progress from the number 2, number 3, and number 4 option in this passing game for me to believe that they're going to win the Super Bowl, because you can't win the Super Bowl without a number 2, number 3, or number 4. It just can't happen in this day and age. The defense is good, but I think they've regressed a little bit to what we thought they kind of were, which was... they're probably better than last year. They've got a good pass rush, and when they get Alexander back, they'll certainly be a very high upside defense. But I think if you play smart, if you're a good, smart quarterback and you're capable, you can kind of dink and dunk your way down the field. And if you've got a good O-line, you can definitely make plays. But I think the Packers are a good team. They might be a Super Bowl team. There's just a team that has more talent than them and has a quarterback that's just as good that I put as the favorite right now to get to and to win the Super Bowl, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers weren't at number 1 for a few weeks for me, although I've probably had them at number 1 more than most other analysts out there, and the reason is when they're healthy, they're the best team in the NFL, and even versus the Bills, they weren't healthy, right? They were missing 2 or 3 of their starting safeties, which caused Richard Sherman to play his first ever game at safety. He actually got an interception in the game. Jamel Dean left the game, which I think helped the Bills come back in that game from a secondary perspective. But if they're healthy, again, guys, they are a defense that can cause a lot of fits because Todd Bowles is a really creative blitz package type of guy. He can create pressure from all angles. And they're a really athletic front. They've got a lot of speed with Devin White, Levante David, Tryon and Shaq, and JPP's still athletic at his age. Like, they've got a really good interior D line. They really have no holes on either side when they're healthy. The problem for them has been the secondary has been so banged up that they haven't really had any good coverage out there for a number of weeks. And I thought the Bills really attacked them with something extremely unique to come back in that game with the run game from Josh Allen. That was super unique and super creative and allowed them to come back and create plays there because Bowles was so aggressive at attacking the pocket and attacking the passer. And that kind of backfired down the stretch. But I think the reason the Bucs gave up the lead was more so an issue with the Bucs just not executing at the same level. Offensively, they just weren't executing at the same level they were in the first half. And I think that can be something that is avoided when you have a guy like Antonio Brown back in the lineup who's so good at kind of making those yak plays and those 5-yard catches, 10-yard catches, and that safety blanket for Tom Brady, right? They're already amazing. They're the best offense in the league without Antonio Brown. Like, there's no question. Even versus a very good Bills defense, they put up over 100 more yards than anyone else has all year. But with Antonio Brown, they're basically unstoppable, and they should have him back by the playoffs. They can run it on you, they can pass it on you, they can rush the passer, they can defend the run. The only real weakness at all with this team is weaknesses from their own play, when they take penalties, when they turn the ball over. And this is mostly due to how they're executing. And it just feels like with Tom Brady at this time of year, they've kind of lowered the penalties down. Bruce Arians has done a good job of doing that. And as long as Byron Leftwich continues to call good plays on first down, they're going to score 30 points. And it's just hard to score 30 on this defense when everyone is there. So the Bucs to me are the best team, and I would pick them to win the Super Bowl more often than not. That's not to say that they're for sure going to win. Like, I think the Packers could win. I think the Patriots could win. I think the Chiefs could win the Super Bowl. But more often than not, I think if we were to simulate the playoffs right now, the Bucs would probably win the Super Bowl. And that's just because they're the most complete team with the most answers to all of the questions. And that's what you look for in a Super Bowl team. So those are my power rankings for Week 15 of the 2021 NFL season. If you enjoyed, don't forget to spike that like button and subscribe for more BLV. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Comment below your thoughts on my top 32 this NFL Week 15, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.